And Jennifer, are you good to go?
I am good to go. Let me find my document and get it open real quick here. Sorry. You know how everything hits all at once.
And while Jennifer's pulling that up, I just want to say welcome, Harrison, Jeff, and Elena. So glad to have you all with us and your first day on the Ag Commission. It's a very light meeting that we have at 12:30, and of course your confirmations, along with Colleen's and Catherine Bedell's second confirmations are next week. So looking forward to helping you all through that. And Colleen, thanks for joining us as well as Ag Commission Chair. Glad to have you on board. And maybe while we have you, will you just do a quick introduction so everyone knows who you are in your role?
Sure. Thank you, Kate. Good morning, and I echo Commissioner Greenberg's welcome to the Ag Commission. I'm Colleen Pepler. I live along the Front Range in the Meade community area, and I am currently serving as chairperson for the Ag Commission, and look forward to learning about your farms and about you and working with you in the next 3 years. So I think I'll meet a couple of you, and I know Harrison, but I know hopefully we'll meet the rest of you either next week or in our May meeting when we're in person. So turn it back to you, Kate. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. And also on camera, we have Jennifer Gurr, our Chief Administrative Officer, who you'll be working closely with, along with Melissa Guthrie, our Executive Assistant, also a point of contact for you all here, and Billy Sieber, our Attorney General, who helps us navigate all of the ins and outs of our legal authorities and responsibilities. And Hollis is obviously not here right now, but he's my Deputy Commissioner of Operations and will be someone you're getting to know over the course of your tenure as well. And just so you know, for introductions, we have time on the agenda for you all to do introductions for the full board. But Jennifer, do we have a moment just to have the new members make quick introductions as well?
Oh, yes, I think so.
Great. I'll just do it for my screen: Harrison, Elena, and Jeff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Harrison, fruit grower here in Delta County. We operate a number of farms across Hotchkiss and Paonia, producing mostly organic peaches and apples, but have quite a few cherry acres and things like that as well.
I'm Jeff McCullough. I'm from Monte Vista, down in the San Luis Valley. I'm a potato grower primarily, and we do a lot of cover crop work. And yeah, I also own and operate a potato packing shed here in Monte Vista as well.
Elena?
Yeah, Elena Miller Turkile, and I'm down here in the San Luis Valley as well. I raise sheep, and we're a generational farm. So 1867 was when we were established using the old Acequia water rights. And I do wool products, value-added wool products, as well as grass-fed meats.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. And I'll hand it over to you, Jennifer, for any opening comments.
Well, I wanted to echo the welcomes to the commission. Look forward to working with all of you. What we wanted to do today is just kind of give you a quick rundown of a few things to help as you roll into your first meeting. So we'll talk a little bit about the Department of Agriculture and kind of how we're structured and what we're doing here, some of our big issues that we've got going on at the moment and key initiatives that we're working on. Then we'll kind of go into some Ag Commission logistics. So your confirmation hearings we'll talk about a little bit, and then kind of how we run things as far as with the commission. We will be going into a deeper dive conversation at the conclusion of our May meeting, where we'll need to go into executive session. And then Billy will give you some great legal advice and go through a number of things, really digging into the roles and responsibilities of the commission, and then some of those responsibilities that come with that as well, and once you're entering somewhat public service here. So with that, I will turn it back over to Kate and let her kind of start with the department overview. We did have some slides that we sent to you in advance. Melissa, did you want to share those, or do you want me to?
I can share those.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, for the sake of time, I'm not going to do any of these categories justice in giving the overview, but hopefully over the course of time, you'll get a better sense of our sort of landscape here at CDA, where we've been focused and where we're focusing in the years ahead. So department overview, we're a little over 300 staff, I think around 315 or so after this legislative session is done. We have 8 programmatic divisions. And you'll learn about those as we go. Don't worry about not knowing them all today, but everything from animal health and brands to our marketing division, inspection and consumer services, our labs team, and a few others. We also have the commissioner's office, which is essentially considered our 9th division, where all of our operations and support for the rest of the department is held. So you see here the org chart. I report directly to the governor. And then we have our team, kind of, again, spreading out across those 300 plus folks, managing all of those division areas as well as our internal operations. Slide, please. So we have, it's a lot of text on this slide, mission and vision, just get acquainted with those, I would say. Our mission, I think of as threefold, which is sort of in 3 clauses: advancing Colorado ag, protecting a high quality and safe food supply and protecting consumers, and fostering responsible stewardship of the environment. So as we move forward with our work, those 3 elements are always at the core of what we do. These wildly important goals on the right side of the screen, I think I've talked to all of you about these, but the governor has asked each agency to build these strategic initiatives on top of our day-to-day work. So, we're obviously supporting all of our team members in running the department and running their programs, but in addition, we know we have the opportunity to really kind of shape the future of ag in our state based on where we put our time and effort. So for the last 4 years, we've been focused in these 4 strategic areas: economic and supply chain resilience, advancing farmer and rancher-led stewardship. We talk a lot about those at our meetings, supporting future generations in ag, and promoting animal health and welfare. So lots of programmatic work, lots of our strategic development around policy, legislation, budget has come up because of those strategic initiatives. We are right now in the middle of planning for our next 2 years of strategic initiatives, so it's a really great time for you to be joining us. We are going to remain committed to these, but we are shifting in a couple of areas. We're going to be taking a more narrow focus, not narrow negatively, but really lasering in on water resilience and how we can help our ag communities tackle the water challenges we're facing. And then the second area is around food access and food equity. So how do we help reduce the incredible amount of food insecurity we're facing in this state from the resources that we have? Next slide, please. We also just this last few months went through a core values exercise, really robust kind of process through our senior team and our staff. We also have a group here called the EAC, which is the Employee Action Committee. So it's sort of our group of employees that advocate their needs and hopes with us and advise us on where they think we should go as an organization. So these 5 values is where we ended up: partnership, service, professionalism, proactivity, and respect. Obviously, we hold a lot of other values, but this is really the framework that we are putting on how we do business and how we serve the public. Next slide, please. Okay, so Jordan is our, for those of you who don't know Jordan Beasley, he is our Deputy Director of External Affairs. So Jordan oversees all of our budget, policy, and legislative work. Jordan isn't able to join us right now, so this is just going to be incredibly high level. We'll dig into this more as time goes on, but this slide shows how CDA is funded. We're a predominantly cash-funded agency, which means the fees that producers pay for our services funds the majority of our organization. So we take that responsibility very seriously when we're thinking about our budget, that we know changes to it will often impact those folks who pay fees, like you guys. We have about 22% general fund revenue, and then our other areas for our budget are federal funds and reappropriated funds. Happy to dive into those. And I'll talk a little bit more about our federal funding in a little bit during the meeting. Next slide. I think that's just another graph kind of showing different budgets per division.
And then this kind of goes into Jennifer's
Okay.
Section.
Great. So let me, before I hand it back to Jennifer, just a few other items. And again, this is really just kind of planting the seed for things that we'll jump in on later and just throughout your tenure. But the legislative process, so as you might know, we're nearing the end of the legislative session. It goes from about, early January through mid-May. CDA is heavily involved in the legislative session. We put forward agency bills, and we also react to other bills that come before the General Assembly that impact ag or impact our agency. So that's a place that we, every month or every meeting, we will keep you all up to speed on what we're tracking in the legislature, let you know kind of what our strategy is and our approach, and get your feedback on what's going on. In addition, we, as part of just our organization, department-wide strategy, equity, diversity, and inclusion we're working to embed that in all of the work that we do. So we have an EDI plan, strategic plan, that covers sort of everything from outreach, hiring, recruitment, to how do we deliver programs and services, what does accessibility look like in all the different ways. So just know that we'll be briefing you all on our progress and sort of developments along those lines. Accessibility, I mentioned that's a big one for the state. That's everything from interpretation and translation to making all of our documents accessible to folks with different abilities for reading or auditory abilities and whatnot. So just a lot of work internally going into that and many other efforts. But with that, again, not doing any of those justice, but hopefully just laying the foundation for y'all knowing what's to come. And with that, Jennifer, I'll hand it back to you.
One more thing I'll add on the budget real quick is that we did receive some stimulus funding the last couple of years and a lot of those really helped move some of our initiatives that we're working on in the department forward. And some of that being our WIGs, the sustainability WIG in particular. We did just complete a report on all of that stimulus funding. So we'll make sure that we get a link for that to you as well, so that you can really see a lot of that stimulus work that we've done. So next, I'm going to let Billy kind of introduce himself real quick and talk about his role as our legal counsel.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I've got an echo. All right, can you all hear me?
You're good.
I'm still echoing, Jennifer. I'm just going to talk through it. Okay, anyway, I'm Billy Sieber. I represent you all from the Office of the Attorney General. You have an entire unit of attorneys at the AG's office. There are 4 of us who represent the department overall. I'm the face you'll mostly see in terms of the legal issues that come before the commission. And I work directly with the commissioner and her role and the commissioner's staff. So all of the legal questions go through one centralized spot, and we've got a full team of attorneys ready to help the department and the commission with its legal needs.
Thanks, Billy. And we'll get to spend lots of time talking with Billy at the conclusion of the May meeting when we go into executive session. Next, we'll kind of roll into the Ag Commission logistics. So kind of those things that are how we operate, how we interact with you regularly. Confirmation hearings is the first one I had on that list. I think you're all aware of that. It's coming up and on your calendars. Bev Zupke, who is our policy and budget analyst, will be sending you a kind of a primer. It will have a lot of information on where to park, where to go, who the committee members are that you'll be sitting before, and then kind of the outline and the process for that day and what you need to be prepared for. So Bev does a really nice job of putting that together, pictures, maps, all kinds of fun things. So if you've not received that from her already, you will be getting that. And of course, if you have any questions at all about the confirmation process, feel free to reach back out to Bev, Melissa, Kate, myself. Any of us are willing to help you through that process as well. And I believe there's a lunch scheduled in advance of that. So that will help kind of get everybody there and ready to go together. We kind of talked about some of our other members. You met Colleen. And then the map that Melissa had up a little bit ago is a map of our agricultural districts. The representation on here is the representation of the commission prior to the changes that were just made this March with folks that are leaving the commission and those of you who are coming on. So this will be updating, but it gives you a good picture of kind of where those different districts are and who the other members are that are in your district. There's a lot of statutory requirements around the board. And so some of those we just are what determines the structure of the board and what your role and responsibilities are that we'll dive into later. So with that, I will let Melissa kind of jump into meetings and expenses for you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? So I'm Melissa. We've emailed, but I'm the executive assistant for the commission. And so I'm the one who is usually going to be sending out notices about meetings, your packets for meetings so that you can prepare. And so you'll see communications from me of that kind. Our meeting schedule is determined at our November meeting. That's where we typically do our training for all members. And then we also determine our schedule for the following year. Included in that packet, which I'm not capable of sharing my screen right now, but is a schedule of our meetings for the rest of this year. We typically flip between long meetings and short meetings. So our short meetings is the meeting that we're having today, which is usually all virtual, and we have it from 12:30 to 3 p.m., and that's every other month. In between those meetings, we do longer meetings where we meet from 9 o'clock in the morning, usually to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And those meetings we tend to do on location. We try to split those meetings between each of our different Ag Commission members and have them host us in their district so that we can get out into the field and see a little bit more in action of what they do. And Jennifer is sharing that schedule. Thank you, Jennifer. So as you can see, we have a few more meetings this year. Our next meeting will be the long meeting in May. All of these meetings, we do have a hybrid option for attendance. So if you are unable to make it in person, even though we'd love to have you, you can still attend virtually. All of our meetings are open to the public. So this meeting, for example, is open to the public. Any member of the public can join. And part of the reason we have remote attendance is so that they're able to do so. And then we also record all of our meetings and we post that to our internet, to the internet so that people have access to those meeting recordings and they can go back and watch them. And then for expenses, this specifically relates to those longer meetings. To be able to get there and travel to those meetings, we will reimburse you for that travel. So whether you guys end up doing travel by driving, or I know some of you are a lot farther away, if you do need to fly to those meetings, we will reimburse you for those costs. If it's a flight, likely I will make the reservation directly just to make it easier so we don't have to deal with reimbursement. But for mileage, you will receive reimbursement afterwards. And I will work on getting all of you set up on our system so that we can reimburse you for those costs. I will send you out a W-9 form that I will need you to fill out and return to me, and that will get you set up. And also we have an electronic fund transfer option. You do need to fill out another form and provide a blank check, but that's a great option because that means we won't have to send you a check in the mail and you can just get it deposited into your account, so even better. And whenever I submit those reimbursements, I'll send you a copy so that you can see all of the mileage that's listed and make any corrections if there are any. Let's see, anything else? Oh, we also reimburse for any items or any events that we request you to attend. So for instance, we had our Ag Forum a couple of months back, and we requested our Ag Commission members attend that because we think it's a great opportunity for them to get out and to mingle and coordinate with other individuals. So we also will provide reimbursements for those, travel to those as well. So I think that's it. And I will pass back to Jennifer.
Okay. So I just have mentioned that we'll do a more in-depth training in May, but wanted to certainly take the last few minutes that we have here today and open it up for you and any questions that you have of us before running into a first meeting and meeting all the rest of the commission members that you'll be working with. None?
I guess quick question for Melissa, that you, and sorry if you said this and I missed it, that's both travel and a hotel room if we need it. Great, thanks.
I didn't say that, Harrison, but I will book your hotel for you. So anytime you're coming for a meeting, I handle the booking of your hotel, and the mileage is, it's really just anything I can't pay for directly. So your mileage is something I can't pay for.
Okay, thank you.
What you'll see.
Okay, I think we can maybe take a break then and reconvene in we have about 7 minutes before the meeting starts, so.
Sorry, one more question. This is not an important one. How often is public comment received? I see it in all the agendas. Is it frequent? Are we regularly interfacing with unruly public, or is it simply there because it has to be, or a little bit of both?
It's there because we like to offer that opportunity. Certainly if we're going through the agenda and there's an agenda item for a particular topic, that we'll take feedback on that topic at that time. But this is just the open public comment at the beginning is intended for anybody that's joining the meeting. If there's anything they'd like to share with us, any concern they'd like to bring forward, we do try to limit that just because our meetings are scheduled so tightly. And so it may be something that we hear an initial issue brought up and then want to loop back with them and have further conversation at a later meeting, or move it to within the department if it's a problem that we can deal with in-house or something like that. So we do not get a lot of open public comment at that time. And we certainly are a commission that I feel, I've worked with others in the past, and I feel that the Ag Commission is one that is not controversial. We don't get a lot of people coming to our meetings and standing up screaming at us, occasionally, but not often. So it's a pretty good group to work with.
Any other questions on how meetings run? And Colleen, I was seeing you were coming off mute. Did you have a comment there too?
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Harrison. In my 3 years, I think I've only seen less than a half a dozen of public comment come across. And I don't know if you mentioned this, Melissa, but when we do have our in-person meetings, we are now both for visual and audio recording. So just FYI.
So I think, a good, just to kind of put a final point on that, we're always, when we're on these meetings together, it's just imagine there's an audience in front of you, because they are inherently public and will be public. And so I think it's always good just to have that lens of assume there's an audience, even if there's no one from the public there in the immediacy.
How would recordings be accessed by the public? Not that I intend to do anything lewd, but what are transcripts available? Are recordings available? What does that look like?
So we actually post the video recording of the meeting to the website.
Okay.
So it is public and accessible.
And we just started that, Harrison. So if you look back at previous minutes, it will just be the written minutes, which were more extensive. We're now tightening up minutes, the written ones, recording our business, and then also posting the full video of the meeting.
Okay.
Transparency sake primarily, and ease of minutes writing.
And we do run the meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Not super strict on that. We're not as formal in that as you'll see the FFA and a lot of folks, but that's our general guideline for how we run the meetings.
You had mentioned the Ag Forum and outreach. How many opportunities are there for that type of thing throughout the year, or how many different events will you have us attend?
Yeah, good question, Jeff. I think I can't give you an actual number because it ebbs and flows based on the interest of the individual Ag Commission member and kind of, our budget position at that time of year. So I would say kind of what we've done in the past and what I would recommend is just simply let's keep in close touch about where your interests lie as an Ag Commission member, and we'll do the same about where we would like to have representation, and then we can kind of match make in that way moving forward.
Sure, thank you.
And Bethany will be on later to provide an update. She's kind of our outreach and communication specialist. We have a standing item on our meetings now for her to update you on any events that are happening. So if you do have any interest in attending any of those in your capacity as an Ag Commission member, you can always let us know and we can connect and see if that's of value.
right, Jennifer, it seems like we're good for the initial training, and we've got more folks joining us for the full meeting.
Okay,
So I'll make sure we can just wrap up today on this part and then move into the next section.
sounds good.
No, it's the same link.
Same link, okay.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us a little bit early there.
Oh, I didn't ask about swag. Cool hats, capes.
We have not had a request
So
for
we
capes
will
yet.
order
but-
name tags for all of you. It's a magnetic name tag. That's all the swag we do for commission members right now, but good question, and maybe we can look at that in the future.
Yeah, I prefer a name cape, please. There it is. Jordan's got it. Actually, that's an attractive hat. Look at that.
Yep, we'll get you guys set up, capes and all.
Yeah, I did have another question. Sorry, I know people are joining, but I apologize for this, but I have some scheduling conflicts, especially the next meeting, and then I think after that I'm good. But I just wanted to just ask: is that, I mean, it's kind of something I can't really reschedule. So is that okay? I'll have to I can do it remotely, but I'll have to step out in the meeting for May 1.
Yeah, Elena, we'll work with you on your schedule and make sure you have the training you need that we'll be doing at that May meeting.
Okay, thank you, and I apologize for that. Like I said, if it's something I could change, I would definitely change it. But
It happens, no problem.
Elena, if you just want to send me an email letting me know the times that you specifically cannot attend, then as we're building the agenda, we can try to coordinate your training outside of that, so it's easier so you can be there virtually.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, I will do that.
Oh.
What?
All right, well, Colleen, I'm just doing a quick head count.
Need one more, I think.
We need one more.
I saw, there's Nick, okay. Melissa, do we have a quorum?
Not quite. We need 5 and we have
Oh,
4.
I think
Okay.
of existing members?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, while we're waiting, can I ask another question? I did a real casual interview the other day with a radio I guess it was a little bit more than just a radio station. It was CPR. And at the end of it, I was asked by a friend, like, oh, did you have to disclose that you were, appointed to the Ag Commission? Do you have to, how crucial is it, or I guess what is the policy in terms of our involvement with public media or anything like that? if we're representing our farm or us as individuals, that we also disclose the fact that we're on the commission.
Yes. I was looking at Jordan because I saw his face like he might want to jump in, but I think it's just best practice. We all wear many hats, and it's best practice to say who you're representing when you're representing. So if you were doing the CPR interview on behalf of your farm and yourself, you would say, you know, I'm Harrison Top, I'm here representing Top Fruits. I'm also a member, you could leave it at that, but you could also say I'm also a member of the Ag Commission, but I'm here in my personal capacity, or I'm speaking in my personal capacity.
Sure.
And we'll
Okay.
go into that a little bit more in our training that we do, our continued training that we do in May.
That's good.
Looks like we've got David. So do we have a quorum?
We do.
All right, good. So we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And before we start, I'd like to recognize any guests that might be online as well, but including representation from the Department of Ag and other areas. So if you can just real briefly tell us who's online with us, other than the current commissioners and the new commissioners.
Carrie Linker, Senator Hickenlooper's office.
Carrie, it's great to hear from you. Thank you.
Mickey Davis with CDA.
Thank you, Mickey.
Amanda Levin with CDA.
Thank you, Amanda. And it looks like the conference room is just an additional line. Is that what's going on there? Yeah, okay, great. And Jordan.
Thank you. Jordan Beasley with the Department of Agriculture.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to welcome the new members on board. Look forward again to next week with the confirmation. I think I'd like real quickly for the current commission members to introduce themselves. And when I look on the screen, Nick, I think you're first. When I look at my screen.
Echo welcome new board members. Glad to have you on and excited to work with you. I'm Nick Trainer. I'm a full-time rancher just east of Denver. My family and I, Raquel and two kids, live on the Lowry Ranch, which is just south of Watkins and just east of Denver. Also lease some other properties around the state, but primarily cow-calf and stocker operators. That's the quick and dirty version.
Thanks, Nick. It's good to see you. Simon.
Hello, welcome you board members. This is Simon Martinez. I'm here in Southwest Colorado, Four Corners area. And I work here for the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, for the Ute Mountain Farm and Ranch Enterprise and the Bow and Arrow Brand LLC. We've farmed 7,600 acres and about a 550 to 600 cow-calf operation. And I've got one son at home that's 11 and 9 grandchildren and one on the way. So got a full house some holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. It's also good to see you. Catherine.
Same here.
Hi, everybody, and I'm so glad to welcome the new board members. I am in Grand Junction. I am also a cattle rancher. I also market the grass-fed beef from my own herd and then do agricultural consulting and some marketing and branding for some other ranchers, and also work on local food systems and food assistance here in the Grand Valley.
Thank you, Catherine. And you can't see him, but I see that David Block is on, and I'm assuming he's on his phone or his iPad. David, can you do a little brief introduction for us?
You bet. Yes, welcome, new Ag Commission members. David Block out here in Northeast Colorado, right from Yuma. Myself and Carla, 4th generation farm and ranch, dry land irrigated. We have multiple crops, corn, milo, wheat, sometimes sunflowers, edible beans, alfalfa, sugar beets. We do have a cow-calf operation as well, and also buy feeder cattle to run on some of our cover crops, and then we feed our cattle out at a local feedlot. Fifth generation, fortunate to have some of the fifth generation with us. I have some nephews, 2 nephews and 3 sons that are involved with us. And also, hopefully we can keep it around for the 6th generation, which we have 4 grandkids. Fortunate that they all live in the immediate area. So thank you.
Thank you, David. And at this point, I'd like to, I'm going to start on my screen. And Harrison, if you could reintroduce yourself, Harrison Top.
Sure. Hey, everybody, my name is Harrison Top. I'm excited to hopefully be on the commission here soon. And we're fruit growers in Delta County, operate farms between Paonia and Hotchkiss, almost all organic fruit, mostly peaches and apples. I also serve as the president of the Western Colorado Horticulture Society, which is the fruit grower organization. We don't do much outside of the Western Slope. Also the president of our local Farmers Union chapter and sit on the Fire Mountain Canal Ditch and Reservoir Company board.
Thank you, Harrison. Jeff, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Jeff McCullough. I live in Monte Vista and down in the San Luis Valley. I'm primarily a potato grower, but we've also done some quinoa, barley. We primarily do a lot of cover cropping now with grazing and some other things. And I also own and operate a potato packing facility that runs 12 months out of the year. And we run about a little over 1 million hundredweight worth of potatoes through that facility as well. So yeah, just excited to put a face to everybody's name and just a pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Jeff. And Elena.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry, there's a baby crying in the background. My kids got sick, so they couldn't go to daycare. So they're here, you know, being sad over here. So my name's Elena Miller, and I'm a 6th generation farmer down here in Southern Colorado, Conejos County on the Alamosa River, still using the old Ezequiel water rights. And me and my dad raise grass-fed lamb. We also are working into getting some specialty grain products going, hopefully soon, fingers crossed. And I do value-added wool products, so yarn, fleeces, roving, all kinds of fun, adventurous stuff. And yeah, take care of my 2 daughters, and it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you, and it's nice to meet everybody again, kind of remotely.
Great, thank you. And I saw that Roberto just popped on. Roberto, we're introducing ourselves, so if I can ask you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Colleen. And sorry for the delay, everyone. I was dealing with some issues in our warehouse. My name is Roberto Mesa. I am Representative District 1 here in the Ag Commission. I have a farm in Bennett, Colorado. I'm a 1st generation farmer, and I focus on controlled environment agriculture, regenerative farming. I've recently launched our egg operation, and I'm also the co-founder of East Denver Food Hub, which focuses on providing the services of aggregation, distribution, access to markets for our community to link farmers to markets in the local food economy. Yeah, really happy to be as part of this Ag Commission, and grateful for the really amazing partnerships and relationships that I've built with the Department of Agriculture. Really excited to have all of our new members on board.
Thank you, Roberto. And I see Bethany just popped on, but I won't put her on the spot right now because we'll give her the opportunity to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about what her role is later on the agenda. I always think about the Brady Bench when we're doing this and how you kind of just keep searching the screen. So Melissa, if I missed anyone, I think we're good. So again, welcome. It's going to be a great experience to work with all of you. I think at this time, I would like to open for public comment for any non-agenda items. And if there are any, we would like those to be limited to 3 minutes per individual. So at this time would be the opportunity if there were any public comment for non-agenda items. I am seeing none and hearing none, so I think we will move on to our next agenda. And that's to Commissioner Greenberg and letting her give her commissioner's report. Kate?
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Colleen, and welcome everyone. It's great having you all here. I know you had the chance to meet virtually when we were in Steamboat, but it's good to have our new board together, and we're looking forward, as I mentioned earlier, to supporting you all in your confirmation hearings next Thursday. So if you have any questions, of course, reach out to us, but our team will be in touch to walk you through all the ins and outs of that. So let me just dive in. You know, Hollis and Jordan will give updates too, so I hope to not be too redundant on what's going on internally and down at the legislature. But just, you know, kind of scaling back, kind of always like to orient around the big picture of what we're doing here and why we're doing it. So as I mentioned, and I mentioned the commission regularly, you know, our big focus areas these last 4 years have been around driving economic resilience. For us, that's really looked like market diversification. How can we help producers enter into new markets, open up new opportunities for making a living in ag? So we continue that work both through expanding our local and regional food systems and through our international business. Voluntary stewardship. A number of you have been integral to the development of our soil health program since 2019, which we started building internally. The coalition that was formed from that effort was successful in passing legislation. And in those 3.5 years, we've gone from $0 for soil health to over 30 million. So that is a testament to the folks on this call, on our board and commission, and hundreds of producers across the state who have helped build what, in my mind, is incredibly innovative farmer and rancher-led program here. Just yesterday, we sent our contract back to the USDA, signed by me, for our $25 million Climate Smart Commodities USDA grant. We were the only State Department of Ag to receive one of those grants in the country, and we're going to be partnering with 6 other Intermountain West states. So I know I update on that regularly. We're moving at the pace of USDA finance team, of course, and those of you who have worked on federal grants and know what that looks like, but they've been obviously, you know, dealing with a lot of heavy lifts and have been great to work with. So we're hoping we're going to finalize that here soon and really be able to scale our STAR soil health program. There's a lot of other really exciting work that we're pushing when it comes to soil, water, and climate stewardship. Jordan will speak to this a little bit, but we're really trying to build out more of our water resources. We're going to be focusing these next few years on water resilience, so kind of building off of the soil and climate work that we've done, knowing we're facing new and pressing challenges with water in our ag communities. How can CDA be a partner, be part of the effort to build a resilient future? For our next gen work, you know, as our third big category of our strategic focus, we've really been looking at how do we scale out opportunities and reduce barriers everywhere from, you know, middle and high school education all the way through early career development. So our lab team has developed an outreach program. So we actually do STEM training with middle and high schoolers to learn the science of ag. We just announced our recipients for our Ag Workforce Development Program. We also were successful in reauthorizing, we're almost there, reauthorizing our Ag Workforce Development Program for a number of more years. And moving up through sort of the career chain, I think many of you know, through our recovery efforts, through which we got over $96 million for ag in the last 2 years. 30 million of that 96 was put into a revolving loan fund. So we've actually been able to finance beginning farmers with land access, and land access being one of the, if not the top barrier for young and beginning farmers. We're now able to provide a very unique and flexible tool for that financing. So we're going to continue to push through all those angles to make sure that we are thinking through the real needs of young and beginning farmers and the future of ag in our state. Our fourth big area of focus has been animal health and welfare. As you know, we have our Animal Health Division, which is responsible for managing any foreign animal disease outbreak that might hit our soil. Unfortunately, we have not had a year without one, so we're sort of used to this being par for the course and part of what we do. This year, we've been obviously dealing with high-pass avian influenza, and a lot of our effort is around response and recovery, but we're really trying to build up our capacity at CDA to also focus on preparation and planning, knowing that the more we can get in front of issues like foreign animal disease outbreaks, the better we will do on the tail end. On the animal welfare side, we have a number of animal welfare programs for new members. Again, we have dozens and dozens and dozens of programs across our 8 divisions, and I'm still learning what they all do. So certainly, it will take time to kind of get the full landscape. But 2 of our animal welfare programs, one, we regulate all the pet care facilities in the state. It's called PACFA. So if you hear PACFA, which is the acronym, they do work with groomers and breeders and shelters. So that's part of CDA that you don't often think of as part of ag, but that's part of our department, and we're proud of it. Another program is the Bureau of Animal Protection. Hollis is going to speak a little more to that, but over the last year, we've really been trying to build capacity there to support local law enforcement, livestock producers, animal welfare partners, and others across the state in doing the work of BAP. So those 4 categories are where we, sort of above our day-to-day, put our focus to drive strategic change for the future of ag. As I mentioned, we're in the middle of a planning process for the next 2 years. So we are certainly looking for input, feedback from the Ag Commission. Those 4 areas of focus: economic resilience, voluntary farmer-driven stewardship, supporting future generations, and animal health and welfare will remain core to what we're doing. But, as I mentioned, around water resilience and community food access, food equity, we know there are incredible needs there, and we feel that we can be a partner in helping solve those problems. So that's where we're building out our strategies, our metrics, what we want to measure, what we want to change and affect in those areas of work. And anything I miss, Hollis, again, will fill in. But just to say, open door on your input and feedback of where CDA is headed strategically, to make sure that we are addressing the problems that need the most attention, and that we're doing so with as much input from those of you doing the work of agriculture as possible. Just a couple more things on my end. I mentioned sort of on the foreign animal disease, our emergency preparedness. So one thing that we've also been building these last few years is much more of an emergency response capacity for the department. I'm really excited about our ability to grow in this regards. Obviously, we've had a lot of experience now responding to everything from global pandemic to foreign animal disease, wildfire, flood, and many other events. And CDA is a part of all of those responses. I heard once from someone at the State Emergency Operations Center that anytime that the SEOC is activated, ag is there. And so we have really been focused on how can we not just be there in response, but again, be helping our communities plan and prepare. So we were able to, through the legislature, get a full-time ag emergency coordinator on board, Dan Frazen. He has been out in communities working with local emergency responders, ag associations, all types of partners to make sure folks know that we're building this arm of CDA. I also want to mention, just because of where we are, this transition from winter to spring, with the winter that we've had, and thank goodness for the snowpack. I couldn't be more grateful for what that snowpack looks like. We've also had a lot of producers who have struggled through the winter with feed, with access to livestock, just with the conditions, especially across Northwest and Northeastern Colorado, but of course down in the Southwest, we're over 180% snowpack, at least as of the last few days. And so various, challenges come along with that. One thing we've discovered in just working with folks throughout this winter as a liaison, as support, as a partner, is that there's a lot of gaps that could be filled around communicating for, what's available for federal relief programs, both for emergency programs and also sort of disaster recovery, disaster assistance. So we heard that. We've been doing a lot of ground truthing. I've been out in the field with folks. I was just out in Moffat County a couple weeks ago, out there seeing what the winters looked like. So one thing we're doing just this Friday, actually, 2 to 3:30, we're hosting an emergency assistance webinar, primarily for ag associations, but really for anyone. I think we've got close to 200 folks signed up about how do you work with Farm Services Agency, FSA, to be as prepared as possible for disaster events, and to make sure you're taking full advantage of the resources that are available to you. It's an interesting timing because we are now just monitoring for flood stages and flood alerts around the state, as we knew would come with a winter like this. So just, I think the bottom line takeaway is know that CDA is a resource. If you or anyone in your communities are experiencing a disaster or, you know, an emergent event, we might not be sort of the jurisdictional agency, if you will. For example, with all the emergency programs, that's where FSA steps in, but we can be a voice. We have the phone numbers and the relationships of folks across the state and in DC that can help support our producers, and we really want to play that role to support our ag communities who are experiencing whatever it might be that they need help with. On the federal side, lots moving here. It's a Farm Bill year for those of you tracking, which means Congress is going to be, well, they already are renegotiating the terms of the Farm Bill and what's going to be in it. So from CDA's vantage point, and we'll make sure and send this out so you all have it, the previous board established a Farm Bill one-pager. So we have sort of our high-level policy objectives for what we'd like to see in the Farm Bill. Certainly, that's an iterative document. So if that's ever something this commission would like to revisit, just given our timing this year, we're absolutely open to that. We've also submitted specific appropriations requests and continue to work with our federal partners. So Carrie, thank you per usual for being on the call and for being a steadfast partner of CDA. It's true for Senator Hickenlooper and Senator Bennett. They are just excellent partners, and we really try and work with their teams on all of the issues that I've mentioned, including Farm Bill. And then on the federal funding side, of course, with all of the money coming through IRA and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, we are developing our federal funding strategy approach. So we don't want to be resting on our heels. We are very much on our toes, taking a proactive stance on how can we be competitive to bring as much of those dollars strategically here to Colorado. So that $25 million of the Climate Smart was part of that effort. We've put in for a land access grant to increase our land access program and technical assistance. We are supporting a number of other proposals that are in the hopper, and Hollis is leading the effort to look on the horizon, work with our teams across the department of how do we, again, proactively tackle opportunities that are emerging that will help us drive our goals. So just know that that's something else that we're doing. If you have any comments or things you're monitoring or following that we should be taking a look at, please just send it, just call me or call Hollis, just send it direct to our staff, and we want to add that to our work. Lastly, just as always, I'm out in the field regularly, been great spending time up in Northwest Colorado. I'll be in Southwest Colorado quite a bit, so Simon, I'll probably be giving you a call, and Jeff and Elena driving through your country back and forth from Durango as well. But just as always, so appreciative of all of your time hosting me in the field, and your willingness to host others too who are interested and excited about ag. That's something we're always trying to cultivate, is how do we get more folks out there to see how the work is done and meet the people to build that direct relationship with Colorado ag. So with that, happy to take any questions if there are any for me, Colleen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions or comments on all the work that's being done?
Just getting back to the emergency stuff, Kate, so a lot of that will be discussed on Friday. Is that what you're saying too?
Yep, absolutely, David. So on Friday, we're hosting the webinar, but we've invited FSA. We're actually going to have Administrator Zach Ducheneau joining us from DC, I mean virtual, but he's calling in from DC. Director Miyamoto, the ag director up in Wyoming, we've been coordinating a lot. Earlier this year, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada, we all four submitted a letter to Administrator Ducheneau asking for increased flexibility in FSA emergency programs. And FSA has told me that they are working on that and have made adjustments. So I'm hoping that Friday will also, if we don't learn everything, we'll at least know kind of what FSA's process has looked like and what's accessible right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Kate. I think we'll move on now. Operations update from Hollis. Glenn.
Great, thank you, Kate, and welcome, Elena and Harrison and Jeff. Thank you so much for being part of this group. Welcome aboard. Nice to meet you guys. So I'm Hollis Glenn. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Operations. So essentially, all that stuff that Kate just went down, my job is to make sure we implement that here in the department. So what I will do in my updates is really kind of, I'm not going to do it today on that, is really what you heard from Kate on a high level is I'll provide update and progress on those kind of key large initiatives that we're doing, specifically regarding those wildly important goals that Kate lined out there regarding next generation animal health and welfare, food access, and water resiliency. We're currently building those goals right now for the next fiscal year, which begins in July. And really the part where Kate mentioned about not just the, Kate, that was Kate's vision of where we want to focus, kind of where we want to, concentrate our primary firepower on. But then we will come up with measures and initiatives and activities and strategies. And we're currently in the process of developing those. And once we get those done, those will be ready in time for the beginning of the fiscal year. We'll definitely be presenting these to the Ag Commission for review, as well as input on particularly the activities that we're going to be looking to implement department-wide to, again, move the larger needle on those key areas. Another thing to consider about those WIGs is that while we will call them our wildly important goals, which is a strategy statewide under Governor Polis, that's not to say that other things that we do here, all those other dozens of programs we do here, aren't equally as important. We do a number of things as well, all the way from providing marketing assistance to the state fair, to pesticide safety, and really focusing on agricultural workforce services and advancement. Those are just equally as important. So when we talk about our wildly important goals, you please understand that that does not necessarily mean that what else we're working on is less important. So I will provide relative updates on those initiatives, maybe issues or things that we would like assistance on or input on from the Ag Commission, as well, capitalizing on the areas of expertise that you all are bringing to the larger commission. And so I will typically follow Kate and provide those operational updates as well. So for today's operational updates, couple other, I'm going to make this, because it's an abbreviated meeting, really want to take a little bit of a different tack here. And I'm going to talk about essentially just kind of three specific initiatives and maybe a couple other little things we're working on. I'm going to try and sprinkle in here, but just to capitalize on what Kate mentioned as well, one of our bigger effort, which is going to help us, I think, be successful in implementing these wildly important goals, is the work that we're doing in looking at how do we better utilize federal funding opportunities and federal programs. So we're reviewing those. So this is just kind of a reinforcement of, if you hear, let me back up a little bit. The Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA Act, there is a lot of stuff coming out from there, and it's coming from a lot of places. And respectfully, there's just a lot of stuff there. So there's a lot of stuff we have to sift through to find those little nuggets of, okay, where do we clip in? Where does it make sense for CDA either to lead in driving those dollars to Colorado at CDA and what we could do with those dollars? We also want to see how can we better be a partner. Maybe we're not the lead agency, but we're looking for opportunities where we can maybe partner with other agencies or nonprofits or others that would qualify for some of these federal funding opportunities as well. And then the third category is also, we are looking at federal funding opportunities or enhancements to existing programs that are available to producers, and how do we promote those opportunities to the producers? it's not just about trying to find dollars for CDA, it's about getting dollars to Colorado, right? And so how can we provide that resource tool to producers to, one, be aware of something that might be coming down, that they would be interested in, that would make sense for their operation. But then also, how the heck do they apply for this thing, right? These are not easy things to navigate and understand. And so that we'll be building that also into our federal funding opportunity kind of process that we're doing to kind of sort of find those gold nuggets. The other two quick announcements is here, and I brought in a team with us here today to kind of help me with one of them, is I want to introduce you to Amanda Laban and Mickey Davis, who are working on our Community Food Access Program. Brand new program, ambitious program to help drive healthy food in low income, low access areas in Colorado, both by supporting both small food retailers, so small grocery stores, as well as small family farmers, to be able to drive that healthy food into those areas, to grow and distribute healthy food. So essentially, how do we build capacity in the pipeline for that healthy food into those areas and for grocery stores to sell them? So this is predominantly a grant-based process. We talked about this a little bit, where a lot of moving pieces to this. This is federally funded program. One of the components is that we have to set up an advisory committee to help us design the core elements of the grant program. Melissa sent out kind of a awareness sheet, summary sheet that we're going to go over really quickly, of kind of who we're appointing to be on this advisory committee. This advisory committee is appointed by Kate, and so we're not asking Ag Commission to provide a formal vote of our approval at this point. This is just an awareness campaign. But I want to kind of hand it over to Amanda and Mickey to, one, introduce themselves and give a little bit of background. You have not had the pleasure to meet them. They're fabulous. And then give a little bit detail about the advisory committee and who we're selecting. And then I'll take it from there on to my other things. So with that, I will introduce Amanda Laban. Amanda is our newest employee. She is basically the program manager, or overseeing the new food systems and agricultural development unit within the markets division, and essentially houses the Community Food Access Program, but also our specialty crop block grants, our leadership, our workforce development program, our next gen leadership, as well as our loan program. So she oversees a lot of programs, of which Mickey Davis, who is our program manager for Community Food Access, works within this division. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Amanda and Mickey to give a little bit more about the program and the advisory committee.
Great. Thanks so much, Hollis. Hello, everyone. So nice to see you all. It's an honor to be here. My name, as Hollis said, is Amanda Laban, and Senior Programs Manager here in the Markets Division. Just to give you a little background on myself, I've worked in food systems for the past 20 years, everything from grocery store work to running my own small food business to working on small family farms. And then over the past 3 years, I've been working on land access issues in Colorado. This position is just a great synthesis of all the things that I've done over the years. So just excited to be here. And I'm going to hand it over to Mickey to give the more detailed update about the advisory committee. But just want to say thanks again for having us. Excited to be working on this program. And great to see some familiar faces. And one last thing, Simon, I wanted to let you know that I have some bow and arrow cornmeal in my refrigerator right now. It's great stuff. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Amanda. Hi, everyone. Mickey Davis, and I am the program manager for the Community Food Access Program. A bit about me, I too have worked all over the food system, on farms, at farmers markets, in small food retail, on the culinary side of things. So bringing a master's of public health perspective to this work as well, which is helpful. And I'm a registered dietitian. So yeah, I'm going to talk a bit about the advisory committee here, which, as Hollis mentioned, is going to help us develop the grant program for this community food access program, which as Hollis and Amanda said, is really designed to increase access to and lower prices for healthy food in underserved areas of the state by supporting and enhancing that retail environment. Both retailers and producers are eligible for the grant. So we really wanted to look for retail experience, producer experience, grant making experience, and general food systems awareness as we made our selections or our recommendations for this advisory committee. So that memo should have been shared with you, I believe it was maybe yesterday, but I'll just go quickly through each of our 6 selections, say a few words about each. Nim Patel, we're really excited to welcome Nim to the committee. Nim works for the Colorado Enterprise Fund, which does a lot of healthy food financing. So Nim has a lot of really relevant experience working with small food retailers in this exact same space. So for infrastructure investments that will enhance their buying capacity to supply healthy food. So we're excited about Nim. Dean, and forgive me, I haven't yet met these people one-on-one, so I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing their names correctly, but Dean Vidal lives in Southwest Colorado, is an active and engaged member of the La Plata Food Equity Coalition, and is really passionate, a really just excited, passionate citizen who is really well-versed on the legislation that allowed this program to come into be. So excited to welcome him to the committee. We have some representation from Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. Sarah Meyer's been an egg farmer for 22 years and has a lot of experience becoming SNAP authorized and selling her products to all different kinds of retailers and at farmers markets. So we're excited about Sarah. Andrea does work through the Colorado Resiliency Office through the Department of Local Affairs, and also brings up experience in rural agriculture as well as urban agriculture, and has a master's of public health as well. So we're excited about Andrea. We have a retailer on our advisory committee, Megan Harris. She's a unique kind of retailer. She manages a buyers club to try to bring more Colorado, locally grown and raised Colorado product to the Colorado Springs area. So she's really familiar with the challenges of sourcing local product and is excited to enhance those channels through supporting this grant program. And finally, Shayna Knight. Shayna works for Food Bank of the Rockies, which is a food bank that serves the northern half of Colorado, and provides food distribution to all of the food pantries in those 30 counties. So she has a lot of understanding of the food access, the unique food access issues in these regions, and also awareness of the distribution channels that these food pantries leverage to get food. So that's just a really quick and dirty summary of all of the final recommendations we made to Commissioner Greenberg for our advisory committee. And I just want to mention too that we had a lot of interest in this committee. One challenge we encountered was how the conflicts of interest with a lot of with the applicants wanting to contribute on the advisory committee, but also wanting to apply themselves for the grant. or provide outreach to eligible applicants. So we had a number of interested, really qualified committee applicants who decided to rescind their application. So we're excited with this selection, and we think that we'll have all of the expertise needed to create a really important, impactful grant program. So.
Thanks, Mickey. Colleen, if any commissioner, this might be a good time to stop and see does any commissioner have questions about the Community Food Access Program? Understanding that you may not be fully up to speed, and we can help you get up to speed on this program, but any questions or comments about or feedback on the advisory committee or what you've heard from Amanda or Mickey?
I did have a quick question. Do you have all your slots filled, or did I see that you were still looking to fill a slot?
Thanks for reading that. So as I sort of alluded to, we didn't feel that we have one retailer, but we didn't really feel like we had that true Colorado retailer perspective represented here. So we decided to leave one spot open. Our legislation says we can have up to 7 members. So we're leaving one place open in the event that we get some interest from a small food retailer who doesn't want to apply for the grant, doesn't feel that they're eligible, or possibly applies for the grant, gets it, and then because it's a one-time grant, they can't apply again, and so they can lend their wisdom to our advisory committee.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this topic? Okay, Hollis.
Okay, well, thank you. And just kind of going larger back to our Community Food Access Program, you know, we're also seeing kind of how do we leverage this again, back to the wildly important goals is kind of the larger initiatives that we're seeing, that what we're calling the Farm to initiatives and work that we're seeing, not just in the nonprofit world, but also quite frankly with our fellow agencies as well. So we're seeing how this is a great place for us to begin to build on this, coupled with there is, and Jordan may connect with this, there is legislation going through the legislature right now, House Bill 1008, that would actually clip onto not only this $6 million grant program, but an additional multi-million-dollar tax credit for producers, as well as community small food retailers to do more of the same, purchasing equipment, cold storage, shelving, equipment to help with the capacity of driving food into these areas. So more on this program to come for sure. But with that, you know, we're super excited. We have rising stars here with Amanda and Mickey. And so we're so happy to have them on board. This may be a good segue into kind of the next update I have from operationally is while we have 2 rising stars coming in and we welcome them, unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to another rising star here at CDA in the Bureau of Animal Protection program. Dr. Nemec has been with us for, I think, a little bit about a year. And unfortunately, she is, well, fortunately for her, unfortunately for us, she has a tremendous opportunity to go oversee, be the director of a new policy center at CSU, the Policy Center on Animal and Human Issues, basically located in the Department of Human Dimensions. And this policy center is going to be basically just focusing on social science information and really bringing diverse perspectives to help state agencies and policymakers, government agencies, really effectuate good policy on animal and human relationships. So while she's moving to CSU, it's definitely, we see this all as a very positive opportunity for herself and for us to kind of begin to build some of that, being more proactive in addressing root cause issues about animal neglect and mistreatment, and having some of that policy work, having some of that academic research work, which is kind of really her areas of her specialty, being able to kind of partner with her in the development of this new center up at CSU. And so we wish her the best of luck. She is going to step down from our full-time position here in mid-May, and then and help us with the transition, working lightly through the rest of the fiscal year, and then she'll begin her new work at CSU. For us, obviously, this is a position that we're going to want to fill, just because the work that we do at BAP and the momentum we've created, we don't want to slow down. We don't want to have any kind of any hiccup, and so we will be posting to replace Dr. Nemec as the BAP program manager. This announcement will go out tomorrow along with a press release. So this is just an advanced awareness to the Ag Commission that we are seeing a personnel change in the BAP program. We hope to have that person placed based on kind of normal times to post and then hire and start a position. Will sometime be in June, with Becky leaving in May. So we hope we can have a little bit of overlap there in the transition. And then the side note on that is, it looks like we did receive our decision item, which we will be able to grow that program as well by getting a much needed second inspector or investigator, so that we can respond to complaints or issues or provide assistance on the western slope of Colorado. We're currently, right now, we just have one investigator living in Colorado Springs who often has to spend a lot of windshield time getting over onto the western side to respond to investigations. So I think that with the new program manager in place, Dr. Nemec assisting on kind of the root cause analysis research at CSU, and then bringing on this new investigator on the western. So really think we're going to be setting that program up to be really to continue to sustain the work that they're doing, and if not enhance it, because there is a lot of work and a lot of moving pieces of that program. And I think we'll be in a great position once we get everybody on board in about 6 months. But and we'll have relatively, I think, few bumps or bruises as we make this transition. Any questions? Happy to answer, Colleen, any questions from the commission on that?
Any questions for Mickey or Amanda or Hollis from any of the information that they presented to us?
Okay. Final note, or two quick final notes. One is we are also looking to hire a deputy director for the conservations division under Les Owen. That is a division that is going to rapidly grow based on climate smart commodity agreement that we just signed, legislation that's coming down, are focusing on water resilience. So we really feel like we need to expand leadership capacity in that department, so Les doesn't have a nervous breakdown working here, and give him a little more bandwidth. And so that position we actually extended that position. We've extended that announcement until close of Monday at 10 p.m. So we have a few days here until next week. So if you know of anyone that you think would be really ideal candidate to be the kind of a conservation deputy director overseeing climate, water resiliency, drought, renewable energies, kind of your standard conservation fare, please, we will, and this will be a good segue into kind of the final thing I'm going to say is, when you hear us talk about a lot of this stuff and with links or things, Melissa will follow these meetings up with like a follow-up email. So here's a link to this, here's a link to that for your awareness. So you'll get a link to the job announcement as well here. And so please forward it on to anyone that you think would be interested. It is open to people across the state to apply. There is going to be a need for this person to be in the Denver metro area, doing in-person meetings at a fairly regular basis. This position is serving as our liaison to the governor's office on a climate resiliency roadmap as well, the leading that effort. So just bear that in mind, but we definitely don't want geography to be a hindrance to people who might be interested in that job, and for us to help get the best candidate pool we can possibly get. So we'll send that off. And so if you know anyone that would be ideal there, looking to come to CDA, please feel free to forward it on. That's it, Colleen. Thank you so much. I've exhausted my list.
Is that your list, Hollis? Great, thank you. You know, on a comment, we'll be sorry to lose Dr. Nemick's expertise, but the way I look at it, it's another great resource for us through Colorado State. So any comments for Hollis or anyone? It's always great to hear Hollis's and commissioners' updates. It just tells you all the amazing things that are going on at CDA and all the changes and all the progression. All right, Bethany, can you introduce yourself and give us your upcoming outreach opportunities? We spoke a little bit about it at the earlier meeting, but I think you've got some great information to share.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen. And I'm happy to follow Commissioner Greenberg and Hollis with ways that now you can engage with CDA as well and not just hear about them. But as Colleen mentioned, my name is Bethany Howell, and I actually do live in the San Luis Valley with a couple of neighbors on the call. So Elena, nice to have you on the commission, and looking forward to spending some more time with you guys. But I'm based out of Del Norte, and so I get to do my job from here. And so most of my job is around outreach. So I'm the Deputy Director of Communications and Outreach, and trying to figure out ways to get you guys involved as much as possible. So first, I do want to say thank you to those of you who were able to put some op-eds in for Ag Week. I know it was a little bit short notice, and Olga and I kind of threw stuff at you really quickly and said, please do something. But it means a lot to have your words out there in your communities and have your example and contact info, basically, for people to be able to email you and let you know what they're concerned about. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you to those of you who were able to participate in Ag Day at the Capitol. I heard it was really incredible. So I'm glad to have you guys there. And also sad to miss the CWCB and CDA meeting in March, but thanks to those of you who were able to do that. So I do want to highlight a couple of things, especially for newer commissioners. I'm going to drop in the chat this link, which is our kind of my running list of outreach opportunities and engagement opportunities that I keep for senior management, but also want to share it with you all. Please feel free to add any meetings or conferences or things that you're going to be attending. I also try to connect if there are CDA staff who are attending. With Ag Commission, that's a great opportunity for you to get to know some of our staff who are usually out and about in the field. So if you can connect with them at a meeting or a forum or a symposium, I highly encourage that. So that's the intent of this tracking spreadsheet. And I do send out a monthly email as well that links to this and has opportunities. So you can see there, I'm not just going to run down the list with you. You're perfectly capable of kind of looking through and seeing what you're interested in. But I did want to highlight a couple of opportunities that are going to be coming up that I will probably be starting to contact a few of you about. So there was mentioned the Climate Resiliency Group. There's a Greenhouse Gas Emissions Roadmap 2.0 outreach that is going to be happening in the next few months. And so I'm working with that group to identify different places around the state where they want to have stakeholders primarily from communities that are generally not, that are a little bit underrepresented, and ag communities are one of those. So they're really interested in the agricultural producer perspective. However, they're still a bit broad on what they're going to be talking about with those groups. So as I am trying to get them to narrow down the scope so we can figure out what producers in which areas are the best fit for those listening sessions, I will be reaching out to some of you who are in those areas and inviting you to those as well so that you can bring your perspective and just have that ag perspective at some of these meetings. So more to come on that, but I did want to give you a heads up that they're trying to start holding listening sessions starting in June. So I will be reaching out to you guys about those. And then that kind of brings us into summer field visits. Whenever Commissioner Greenberg goes to different meetings or we have opportunities to get her out in the field, we always want to invite you, if we're in your area, to join us for those. We've had a few really great meetings with Simon down in the Southwest, with David, who joined us in Yuma. Colleen was able to go with us on a trip to Fort Collins. And so those kinds of opportunities just to get out in the field, we definitely want you to be as much as possible involved in. So I will keep you apprised of whenever we have something that's going on in your area to invite you to, but they're lots of fun. And so we'd love to have you join us for those as well. So we're looking at potentially some things happening in Gunnison in the summer, and then doing a climate resiliency tour in August in the Northeast. So David and Nick kind of in your area. So more information to come on those, but just a heads up, if you see an email with my name on it, it usually means that there's a fun opportunity involved. So I highly encourage you to open it. But again, welcome to those of you who are new, and looking forward to working with you all.
Bethany finds great things for us to do and for us to get out and visit with our constituents and see all different aspects of everything that's going on. And if you get the opportunity to travel with Kate, I would highly recommend it, because she goes to some fantastic places. Bethany, if we need to RSVP for any of these, you'll let us know, or we can just contact you if anywhere on the list.
Yes, so we'll add all the new commissioners' contacts to our email, and that my email is in there, and I can pop it in the chat as well, just so you have access.
Perfect. Any questions or comments for Bethany? All right.
Bethany, if you need any help looking for hosts for those meetings in the Northeast or something, I could sure try to help you.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate that.
And she won't hesitate to reach out to any of you and ask for assistance. So make sure to keep your emails available for her. All right. It looks like we are doing really good on time, but we can take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 1:40 or in 10 minutes. So we will do that, and we'll see you back in 10 minutes. We're ready to start back. See all your happy, smiley faces. Except I think I wouldn't be surprised if David's not on a tractor.
Well, close, but I'm actually irrigating and chasing some cattle out of the way. Tractor.
Okay, so you're in your pickup.
Correct.
There we go. All right, thank you. All right, before we start with Jordan and legislative and budget updates, I may be a little bit late, but Jordan, I do want to congratulate you on the Denver Business Who's Who in Agriculture. Congratulations on that award. Very nice to know somebody in that area with that high prestigious award. So turn it over to Jordan Beasley, who is going to provide us with the legislative and budget updates, please.
Well, first off, thank you for that, Colleen. Very, very much appreciate that. Good afternoon, everybody. Now know and have talked with everybody on the call, but just a reminder, I'm Jordan Beasley, I'm the Deputy Commissioner of External Affairs at CDA, and one of my roles is also as the department's legislative liaison. And so this time of year, I spend a lot of time down at the Capitol, and I would be down at the Capitol this afternoon if I wasn't like several other folks that are on the call and around the office who have sick kids at home. So that's what I'm doing here. But we have a little less than a month to go in the legislative session, and there is a ton of work that needs to be done still. We are starting to reach the point where leadership in both the House and the Senate are starting to prioritize bills and figure out what they can get passed and what they won't be able to get passed this year simply due to time constraints with the session. So with that said, it's lots of long days down there at this point. You know, I think the legislature is going to be working at least 6 days a week from here on out, and most days they're going to be working well into the night to get through committee hearings and floor work as well. I'm going to start by giving just kind of a quick update on our budget and where things stand with that. The budget has moved through both the House and the Senate at this point in time, and both the House and the Senate did make some minor changes to the overall state budget. None of those changes directly impacted the department, but because there were changes in each of the chambers, the budget bill has to go to conference committee, which the conference committee for that is the Joint Budget Committee that writes the initial budget as well. That's happening today and tomorrow. They're going to be working through some of those differences, and then the budget's scheduled to go back to both the House and the Senate to adopt the conference committee changes on Friday. So we do expect on Friday that we will have a budget bill for the next year on its way to the governor. There can always be changes to that process, but that's the timeline as it's laid out right now. So in that budget that we do expect to pass and move forward, in addition to kind of the baseline budget items for the department, there were a number of additional kind of requests that we have for different positions and other items that will be included in this. And many of you have heard these before, but especially for kind of the new Ag Commission members, just want to highlight a couple of the additional items that we were able to secure funding for in this year's budget. The first one is funding for a climate drought smart agricultural marketing specialist in operating funds for them. Another is to secure some ongoing funding for Hollis's the Deputy Commissioner of Operations position. Third one was to restore some funding to our fruit and vegetable program to help do some trainings for our inspectors. That was a relatively small amount of money, but it was some money that was cut during kind of the initial years of the pandemic that we're going to get restored for them. We also were able to get approval to hire an insectary lab technician who will support our Request a Bug program out of the insectary in Palisade. We were also able to secure funding to hire a Western Slope-based BAP, or Bureau of Animal Protection, investigator, as well as some funding to hire a mental health contractor to support that program. There's also some additional operational funding for the Animal Health Division to help support them in their emergency response, and particularly with foreign animal diseases, and help support some of their work with high-path AI and anything else that might come down in the future. And then finally, we were able to secure funding for an agricultural water advisor position within the department. And as Commissioner Greenberg mentioned, kind of, I think in her remarks, you know, a big focus of the departments right now and going into the future is going to be water issues. And so I think this is a very critical budget request that we were able to secure to bring on a full-time person within the Department of Agriculture to focus on water supply issues in the agricultural sector. So that's kind of again, kind of a quick high-level overview of where the budget is in the process and some of our budget asks. And I might just stop there, see if there's any questions on the budget before I move into legislative updates. Great. Seeing none, I'll move on, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in. So on the legislative side, CDA does have 4 agenda bills this year, 3 of which have now passed the legislature, and 1 is still moving through the process. First one the continuation of the Ag Workforce Development Program. Again, Commissioner Greenberg mentioned that in her remarks. We were able to secure 5 additional years for that program and 5 additional years worth of funding as well. That bill did just pass the legislature and is on its way to the governor for signature. We also have had a bill that would allow us to help stabilize the fees in the fruit and veg inspection program. We wouldn't be increasing spending at all. It would just help us, again, stabilize those fees from year to year. That bill has also passed the legislature and is on its way to the governor for signature. Our third agenda bill is a bill that modifies the eligibility requirements under the Ag Futures Loan Program, and Hall's talked, and I think Kate also talked a little bit about that in their remarks as well. That bill has passed and has actually been signed into law already. And then our final agenda bill, which makes some modifications and updates to the Livestock Health Act, kind of in response to some of the challenges that we've seen with responding to HiPath AI, has been introduced and has made it through its first committee in the House and passed on second readings in the House yesterday. And so we're waiting for the third reading and final vote in the House before that moves over to the Senate. So in addition to those kind of 4 agenda bills, there's 3 sunset bills that impact CDA that we're helping kind of move through the process. And for those of you that are unaware, a sunset bill is a bill that will reauthorize a program. So in Colorado statutes, any regulatory program has to automatically repeal at a future date. But prior to that repeal, there's a review that's conducted and an opportunity to reauthorize that program and make any legislative changes that are necessary during that process. And so this year we do have 3 of those bills that do impact the department. The first one is the reauthorization of the Pesticide Applicator Act, which did pass out of Senate Ag last week and is calendared for Senate Appropriations this Friday. There were some amendments to that bill in last week in Senate Ag that just kind of aligned that the bill with the sunset review requirements that were laid out in the report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. The second sunset bill we're working to get through the process is the reauthorization of the custom exempt meat program in our ICS division. That bill has made it through the Senate and is waiting in House Appropriations, which will be its last committee. We don't expect any issues getting that bill passed. The final sunset bill that we're working on that directly impacts the department is the Noxious Weed Advisory Board. That is up in House Ag tomorrow. Again, not anticipating any issues getting that bill through. Again, I will take a brief pause there to see if there's any questions on kind of the CDA agenda bills or any of our sunset bills before I touch on a few other bills that are likely of interest to all of you.
Any questions or comments on those topics that Jordan presented? For Jordan.
Jordan, I'm new, so I don't really know, but is there a place where I can find all this information just to inform myself a little bit better?
Yes, I believe we send it out, but we can send it out again. We have kind of a tracking list of all the bills that we're looking at that kind of automatically updates where they are in the process, and you can kind of read more about the specific bills if you're interested in them. But the other thing as well is if there is a particular bill that you're interested in, want to know more about, you can reach out to me individually and I can happy to have a conversation with you or just kind of keep you updated on where things are at in that process as well.
Thank you.
All right, I'll move on to just kind of touching on some of the other bills. Now there's lots of bills out there right now. So if I don't hit on a specific bill, again, you can always reach out to me and I'm happy to give updates on that. individually or come back to and send an email to the whole commission and give a full update on that. One bill that I've updated you on previously and we've been tracking is the right to repair agricultural equipment bill. And that bill did finally pass the legislature yesterday. And so that is on to the governor for signature as well. House Bill 1008 is a bill that Hollis mentioned, which creates a tax credit to support the work of the Community Food Access Program. I've been following that bill very closely. It's gone through quite a few iterations, but it would really, again, support that program through a tax credit once that federal funding goes away. That bill has made it all the way through the House and has gone through one committee in the Senate and is waiting for a vote in Senate Appropriations. If that makes it through the Senate, the Senate has amended that bill, so it would have to go back to the House to concur with the Senate amendments before it would be able to pass the full legislature. Don't know if I updated the commission yet on a couple of the wolf bills that were introduced, but there's kind of two main bills introduced a couple of weeks ago. The first one is Senate Bill 255, which creates and funds kind of a wolf depredation payment program within the Department of Natural Resources. And this bill would provide $350,000 a year in state funding to pay for that depredation payments. That bill did pass out of Senate, Senate Agriculture last week. And that is a bill that both DNR, the governor's office, as well as CDA is all in support of that bill. And we do anticipate that bill will move through the process. The other wolf-related bill that I wanted to touch on is Senate Bill 256. This is a bill that would require the Department of Natural Resources in the state to obtain a 10J rule prior to reintroducing wolves in the state. So right now, wolves in Colorado are listed as an endangered species, which really limits the management tools that are available. A 10J rule is a rule that essentially designates wolves in the state as an experimental population, which allows for more management tools, including a lethal take of those animals. And so again, this bill would essentially require that the state obtain that 10J rule or that experimental population rule prior to reintroducing any wolves in the state. That bill did pass out of committee last week. However, the governor's office and the Department of Natural Resources is opposed to that bill as it was introduced, and that the Director Gibbs for DNR did testify at that hearing in opposition of that, and I think their reasoning for that is largely tied to the fact that the issuance of the 10J rule is on track to occur by the end of this year. However, it is something that's out of the state's hands. It's in the federal government's hands. And so kind of binding the state to the timeline of the federal government is something that we typically don't want to do as a state and typically don't do. In addition to that, there is always the potential for litigation around these issues, which can delay that for years. And anybody that's been involved or around litigation on endangered species issues at the federal level knows that often can take, many, many years, if not decades, to complete. And so again, just not, I think the rationale there is just not wanting to tie the departments in the state's hands to a process that plays out at the federal level that's outside of their control. Just a couple other bills that I'll touch on before, again, I'll stop and see if there's any questions. There was Senate Bill 266 was just introduced, I think, last week. This is a bill that would place neonic pesticides on the, would require them to be designated as limited use pesticides. That bill is up in Senate Ag tomorrow. We've been working on some amendments to that bill that would make it a little bit easier for the department to implement. And do anticipate with those that would be there testifying in support of those amendments and potentially the bill itself. With the amendments, what the bill would do is essentially say neonic pesticides can only be sold through licensed dealers, but anybody in the state can use them. So it would have a fairly limited impact on, again, it would have no impact on who could use them in the state, and then would have just, potentially an impact on particularly folks in kind of urban areas where there's not a lot of restricted use dealers that sell these products. And kind of one of the practical applications of this would be, somebody like myself who lives in Golden. My local Ace Hardware is not a licensed dealer, so they would not be able to sell neonic pesticides. I would have to, find a licensed dealer and go travel to get them. And I think the thought process behind this, from some of the folks that are pushing the bill, is that the use of neonic pesticides by folks that aren't licensed or trained, or your average kind of homeowner who doesn't know how to use these chemicals, might apply too much and really harm pollinator populations. And so kind of creating that extra step, making it a little bit harder for, a homeowner to obtain those could potentially have a benefit on pollinator populations. But again, kind of the way that bill is going to end up being structured, I think it'll have pretty minimal impact on, agricultural interests. And then also kind of, again, anybody that currently uses those pesticides. Also up tomorrow, which is getting a lot of attention, especially in the ag world, is Senate Bill 270. This is a stream restoration bill that is being brought forward by the Department of Natural Resources. And this is a bill that would make it a little bit easier for folks to engage in stream restoration practices, particularly when there's very little or likely zero actual harm or impact on other water users. So right now there's some regulatory hurdles that have kind of been put in place. Again, the bill really seeks to eliminate some of those to allow more stream restoration in the state. If you have questions on that, I would actually turn it over to Kate to answer those, and she's has a good background in this as well and has been on a lot of those calls. But that bill is up tomorrow as well. I think I'm going to stop there on legislation, but then also just again a reminder that we do have the Ag Commission confirmations next week. Commissioner Greenberg will be there to introduce all of you that are up for the nominations. I will be there, as well as Bev will be there to kind of help facilitate the process. And for those of you that are going to be joining in person, we will be there to help you if you have any trouble with parking or getting in the building or finding locations and all of that. And then all of you that are online as well, if you have any issues, the document that Bev shared with you that kind of outlines the whole process has our cell phone numbers on it. So please do text or call us if you have any issues whatsoever with connectivity, getting on. You have an emergency that pops up and you can't be on, just let us know and we'll figure it out and we'll take care of it. So with that, I'll stop there and again, see if there's any questions.
Any questions or comments? Jordan.
Looks like Catherine has one.
I just am curious about, so the wolf bill, if it doesn't get listed as experimental until after they're released, Does it still take effect? I mean, what happens if the Colorado goes ahead and releases wolves and then the federal government lists them as experimental? Does that have any different effect than if we wait to release them after it gets, I mean, what's the difference between the two scenarios?
That is a great question, and I am not expert in reintroduction. I know Commissioner Greenberg has been involved in a lot more conversations with that around CPW, so I might pass it over to her to respond to that.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for that question, Catherine. The state, if it were to go in that order where reintroduction came before a 10J, the 10J essentially what it does is open up management tools for the state of Colorado. So we would be more limited in the management tools we would have as a state if reintroduction were to come first. But the state, especially DNR, has been working on this 10J with the federal government for over a year, showing the commitment from the state to get the 10J done. So it's still possible to go in that order of reintroduction first, but the way things are moving and the direction the state has been committed to is getting that 10J done for that additional management flexibility.
Thanks.
Kate, did I see that a new director has been named at the CPW?
Yes, Colleen, there's a new director, Jeff Davis. He comes with, I think, almost 30 years of experience out of Washington State in habitat management, conservation policy. He's a hunter, angler. He really, his expertise and background touches on almost all aspects of what Colorado Parks and Wildlife does. So I'm very grateful to Acting Director Heather Dugan for keeping the ship afloat the last year over at Parks and Wildlife during this transition. And really good meeting last week in Steamboat, kind of handing the torch. So Jeff will start on May 1 and will be part of the early May CPW meeting in Glenwood.
Thank you. I bring that up because we do have similar issues within CPW, and so it's good to know that information. Any additional questions or comments for Jordan? Legislative and budget? Well, thank you. Sounds good. The next thing we have up is the Regional Assistant Commissioner updates. And before I introduce, I saw Joe was online. Before I introduce Joe, Kate, can you just kind of give a synopsis of what the role of this, the Assistant Regional Commissioners are? What your vision is?
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Colleen. So we had a deputy transition. My former deputy left, I think, over a year ago. And at that point in time, it kind of raised the question for me, just like any transition does, of, is that the right model for us right now, just operationally speaking? I think in that thinking and talking with a lot of you and a lot of folks in the field, a couple of things. For starters, having this dual deputy model with Hollis and Jordan, where Hollis, like he said, can take all of our vision and our work and implement it and support our teams. And Jordan can have big picture strategy on policy, budget, legislation, both state and federal. That really made sense to me based on how much is going on out in the world that we are a part of and want to be a part of. But that also meant that a gap of ours was more voices in the field as part of our senior team. I had attempted to hire a full-time deputy who was also a farmer, and finding somebody out there, as I know you all can resonate with, who wants to uproot for 4 years or more and move to Broomfield for a full-time indoor job wasn't necessarily the best sell for working farmers or ranchers. So essentially what I did, I took a position, I split it into 4, named these positions Regional Assistant Commissioners. The idea is these are jobs built for working farmers and ranchers. Those jobs serve 2 purposes, 2 main purposes. One, represent CDA in the field with the communities they live and work in, and also represent their communities with us. So Joe and George are helping just along with you all as the Ag Commission, but on a more regular basis with our teams, helping gut check our strategy, tell us what's going on in the field that we need to respond to, that's been true, for example, with this winter with Joe. She and I and our team have been calibrating back and forth. What are you hearing? How are producers impacted? Where is the greatest need? And it's just that direct line of communication. We pick up the phone, text each other, call each other, and the RACs, which is Regional Assistant Commissioners, are part of our senior team. So our leadership hears from them and vice versa. So it's really the idea of spreading CDA out, being more a part of the communities we serve, and having more direct contact with the communities that we serve across the state.
Great, thanks, Kate. So with that, I see that Joe Stanko is on line with us. And Joe, if you want to introduce yourself and what area that you're representing, and please provide us with some updates.
Oh, okay, I'm not glamorous. I've been all over the place today. I'm Joe Stanko, and we ranch out here in Routt County in Northwest Colorado. I've been, as Kate has said, I've been talking across the whole northern tier to farmers and ranchers about the impact of extended winter on economics. Calving is a big thing right now, and even further expenses that may or may incur, their businesses may incur into the future. It's been interesting, and we've been living it. So I knew what questions to ask on that. I just represent wherever right now they need me, since there's only two of us. I've been doing, of course, some work on my own behalf on the Wolf Project, but I have been encouraging people to get their comments into the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I haven't been telling them what to do, but deadlines for the management plan on there's some things that can be changed, and as well getting their comments in on the 10J rule. I got to meet with Representative Negussi he was up here. He even stopped in Yampa and Taponas, Colorado, to make the rounds with his the Farm Bill hearings, and that was kind of interesting. I did a lot of listening and found some things that the farmers and ranchers in this area, he covered those, and that found that they were quite in line with the Department of Ag and your priorities as the commission, filling in there. And then there were some things that the farmers got off in that were not actually directly related to the farm bill, but were related to farmers and ranchers. And so I provided that information. I just jumped off of a meeting here in Routt County with the Climate Coalition, starting their plans to what Routt County can do to improve and meet the climate standards that are ahead and where they are in that process. And they will have their project plan ready on June 21st. And they're working with people all the way from Boulder to Hayden and Moffat County. So it's kind of going to be a regional plan. I'm looking forward to, I'm going to a meeting next week with the National Cattlewomen on my behalf, but I will leave there, and I have been invited to, so I'll be driving from Denver to Carbondale to be a speaker at the 5 Points Film Festival, where they're presenting a documentary on range riding as a deterrent wolf reduction conflict from Washington State, and I will be representing the Stanko Ranch there. I'm moving into some of the things that with the Colorado Department of Agriculture, I'm starting to move in here, besides the climate change, which is moving rather rapidly up in this area. And I'm happy to report that in Routt County, agriculture is only responsible for 5% of all of the greenhouse gas emissions, and they are recovering their own amount and more from our practices there. That was made clear in this meeting. And then the other area that I'm focusing on, just besides, I mean, there's so much in agriculture, you guys know. I'm starting to look at a lot of meetings that are going on about fire mitigation. One that I'm interested in is talking about fire mitigation across boundaries, kind of projects that people can be doing there. Otherwise, I'm having calves and I'm feeding bucket babies. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe? We appreciate the work that you're doing. Your 10 hours of work a week, right?
Right. 10 hours. It's like over 10 hours. I only wear my name badge for 10 hours.
Okay.
That's how that works.
And I don't believe that George Winton is going to be able to join us today, but hopefully we'll get to visit with him next month and get his update as well. So looking at my time, yeah, we're doing good. So at this moment, what we do normally is we just kind of go around to all the members of the commission and give reports on what's going on in our areas, any areas of concern, any good news, and we just kind of take turns sharing with what's going on. I'm going to just call out people to share, and we'll go from there. Catherine, can you give us some updates?
Sure. So personally, I'm finalizing the drafting of the business plan for the public market in Grand Junction, and we are interviewing our last potential business plan writer and getting some more clarification on them. It's a woman-owned advisory group from Chicago who does food systems work. And then also I have one more cow to calf and I am done. And every time I have a calf, I thank my lucky stars that I'm down here and not up at higher elevation, because we've had no issues. And mud's a little easier to deal with than freezing and thawing and the weather that you're having, Joe. So I'm sorry, but we've had a much easier time. So let's see. In the cow world, cow prices are extremely high. Cull cows, we took a load out into Utah and they brought $1.16 a pound on our cull cows. Fed cattle ready to go to slaughter are at record highs now at 172. That's sort of due to the reduction in the national cow herd. And the price of feed that's high as well. So sort of a nexus of things is really forcing those cattle prices up. And unfortunately, that increases the meat price in the grocery store. So not helping with the food inflation that some of our people are struggling with. We're still putting in lots of beef into the food pantry system here on the Western Slope. I think we did, how many thousands of pounds? Almost 40,000 pounds in the first quarter of the year. And if we could and had the cattle for it, they could use twice that much. So that's unfortunate that we're unable to supply all the protein needs of our food pantries, but we're chipping away at it. Here in Grand Junction, we're doing a lot of food systems work, and we're standing up a new food system policy council between some of the food systems groups, including food assistants, farmers and producers, and small retail. So we'll have a better organization to sort of go after grant money and be more organized as we try and build regional food systems here on the Western Slope. The other thing that everyone brings up, of course, is agricultural labor. We're getting to our busy season, and already people are struggling to get labor needs met. The H2A program and the sheep herders, the contract organizers for the H2A programs with the shepherds are facing a lawsuit. That's impacting some people here on the Western Slope. The herders groups are claiming collusion on wage fixing, which is kind of weird since Colorado just increased the wages to those people last year, or of taking effect this year mainly. So some stress going on, especially with the sheep people on the western slope. Weather's been good. We've had a couple pretty big windstorms. The last one did put a bunch of dust on the snowpack, so we'll see how that impacts the melt off. It just is picking up out there again, but we might get some rain and additional snow in the mountains from this. So if that covers the dust from these storms, that could slow down the impact from the last dust storm, and that's what we're hoping for. I guess that's about it, unless someone has questions.
I'm glad you're on your last cow calf.
Yep.
Great, thank you, Catherine. David? Maybe? We'll come back to David. He might be out irrigating. Let's see, Roberto, tell us what's going on in your world.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Colleen. Well, we're really excited for this new season. I think I've shared with you all the vision that we have for the farm, and kind of being this model for land access and launching new operations is really taking root finally. And so we partnered up with another farmer who was looking for some acreage. He kind of has several plots in and around the Brighton area, and has since expanded to our farm. So we're giving an in-kind donation of 4 acres for him to start his operation and get his business up and running. He'll be growing food for East Denver Food Hub, and we have a really great relationship that's really starting to take shape and form. I'm really hoping that will create a model for us to continue to offer land to farmers. Just in time for another opportunity in Bennett, where a community has heard about what we're doing and also wants to give about 70 acres to community food system workers and to farmers. And so really looking at what that could look like. We've also heard from a lot of our farmers that labor is a concern with supplying East Denver Food Hub and a lot of our markets. It seems like that's definitely something that is also coming up in a lot of our conversations, specifically as we begin to plan for distribution of their products and timing their harvest this season as well. But I guess one good thing that is happening is we're connecting much more directly with a lot of the school districts and planning for next year. Doing some pilot runs, specifically with Aurora Public Schools. They're coming on board as a potential partner, and Mapleton's still continuing to partner with us on a lot of projects and grants, and now looking at Jefferson County as well as a potential partner. What's really cool is the school nutrition directors are reaching out to us to partner on collective grant writing. And so they're looking at innovative ways to see how they could strengthen their relationship with us and with local suppliers. So all of this, I think, is really in an attempt to build relationships and the foundation and the coordination necessary for Proposition FF, which will be taking effect next year on the supply side. I'm really excited about that. Yeah, and I think I got a chance to meet with Robert Sakata a couple of times and really strengthening our relationship in that sense, both as people in the Brighton Bennett area, but also as representatives of our organizations, and seeing how to continue the conversation and be a support and ally and conduit for our region. So it's cool to kind of see all these different things and all of the relationships and partnerships, creating an ecosystem of communities and and layering of initiatives so that we can really create something transformative for our regions and our ag producers.
Thank you, Roberto. Any questions for Roberto? Okay, I'm gonna throw one of our new members in the mix to give the reports. And yeah, Harrison, you're it. You're up.
Hey, I'll say at this point in time, it looks like the fruit crop is looking very strong, maybe too strong. It seems like the worst years are the years that we don't have any fruit, or the years that everybody has too much fruit. So I'm hoping that it doesn't turn into one of those years. We are far from being in the safe zone as far as frosts are concerned, but so far nothing in the 10-day seems to be showing real critical temps, and that once we get 10 days farther down the line, that's 10 days closer to the finish line. So so far things are looking good, if not too good, for fruit so far. We did have a couple of freezes that were really cold, but the buds, tree development right now is really slow because of the cool spring. So this is the latest I've ever seen buds developing, where we should be in bloom right now, and our buds are all still pretty tight. So not we should be, we would normally be in bloom, but that bloom date has also been moving earlier and earlier and earlier. So a few things, I suppose. One, I noticed, I was reading through that document, Jordan, I think you posted about Farm Bill priorities. There's a program that a lot of fruit producers use called the TAP program. It's called the Tree Assistance Program. So in the case of natural disasters, it helps to replant trees that were killed. And it is a lot of us used it 2 years ago, 2 and 3 years ago, when we had those fall freezes. And it's pretty antiquated. It hasn't kept up with prices. And there's a couple of other, the mission of it is not fulfilling the mission of the program, which was to, provide assistance to replant trees because prices have gotten so much higher for everything. So anyways, might be interesting to include that in there because a lot of Colorado producers did use it. I'll also say federally, personally, and I think most of the other trade groups, not real keen on this new H2A rule. Doesn't seem like it's helping growers, sure doesn't really seem like it's helping workers, seems to mostly increase administrative burdens to the program, and pretty confused on what the rationale was there. So not sure where that fits in, but I'm not real keen on it. And then lastly, I suppose more state level, we have engaged very successfully with Mesa County Commission and the Grand Junction City Council to take the Japanese beetle issue real seriously. There was a breeding population that was found last year in Grand Junction. Unclear on where it came from. I think we initially thought maybe it was, some folks that had illegally imported turf from Denver. Now we're maybe thinking it came from Salt Lake. Either way, it got there, and we got largely through the Hort Society, as well as outreach from growers all over, we were able to get the county to put forward $200,000 to address spraying this year. Moving forward, we'll have to figure out where future funding comes from, but we're real hopeful that we nip that one in the bud. So, Kate, you raised your hand.
I want to jump in on that point real quick, Harrison. Just CDA is also involved, and the work that Western Hort did with the county has been really critical to, I think, moving the needle. We were just on a call with their city council, county commissioners just week before last to talk about our coordination on Japanese beetle. And they mentioned, having worked with you all in Western Horton, how important that was to helping them make that budget decision. So if you have any needs, from CDA, our team, Wandrad and Cheryl, are deep in that issue out there, and coordinating as best as we can. And also looking for resources that are limited on our end, but we're helping them with that effort.
Yeah, thank you. It sounds like this year we got it whipped. I think what future years look like is going to be the challenge. So if we can start saving pennies now, that'd be great. And I think with that, that's good. It's a good water year. Not going to complain about that. And so far the weather's been treating us well. So that's the news from Lake Wobegon.
Thanks, Harrison. Nick, I'll call on you next.
Well, it's springtime around here. We're starting to see a few sprigs of green, and which is a very welcome sight after the winter we've had. Calving just started. All of our first calf heifers are in full swing now, so got that going, and the weather's been pretty good for that. Unfortunately, I'm gonna be the broken record and still talk about drought. Basically south of I-70, the whole southeastern corner of the state's in pretty rough shape right now. And that kind of includes us here. We've really only had one good snow to speak of. So I was totaling up our rainfall for our precipitation records, and we're not in that good a shape. So hopefully the rest of the lingering La Nina will be on her way, and we can get some decent spring moisture here and kind of start rebuilding things from the previous 2 years. Other big things, something pretty exciting for me. I was a teacher for an afternoon. Helen Silver, who many in the CDA know as she put together a big portion of the STAR program. She also teaches a sustainable agriculture course through Harvard University. So she asked me to give a presentation to her students about ruminant agriculture and its role in sustainable food production and sustainable agriculture. I was a little intimidated talking to a bunch of very, very smart students, but I was pleasantly surprised. Just some really great ideas. The presentation was virtual, but I was really impressed with the feedback that I got. And there's a lot of false narratives out there on climate change, beef production, ruminant agriculture in general. And I was really impressed with the feedback that these students had and what they already knew, what Helen had already taught them. So it was pretty encouraging to me, because most of those students were, doctoral students, master's students, and coming from Harvard, they're probably going to wind up in policy roles and probably really big picture things. So I was pretty pumped up about it. So I guess that's my highlight for this month. Oh, and I got one more thing. I got to put Hollis on the spot. I'm gonna speak for Roberto and David and say we want our Eastern Plains deputy directors. Hollis promised me that he had a long car ride with you, Kate, and he was gonna talk about it. Did he?
We had a wonderful car ride talking about lots of things from Steamboat back to thanks, Nick. We did, and it's on our radar here, and we're calibrating here. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's a great memory, Nick. Yeah. I do recall that conversation. So yes, thank you. Thanks,
The
Nick.
promise was to have a conversation with Kate for the record.
Yes. That's all you committed to at this point, but
That's all I committed to. But we, in all seriousness, and into your initial point there in your area and your job, absolutely, Nick, like we understand and we hear that for sure. Absolutely, thank you for that. We will be pivoting and thinking to think about that, you know, as we stand up this grand experiment with Joe and George. We're seeing actually really great nuggets of information already coming through with the work that they're doing, kind of getting the ear to the ground. But you know, standing this up logistically, you know, with Jordan managing these people, so we're ironing out those bugs, but I think we're ironing them out fairly quickly. But yeah, we will be pivoting to have more conversations, Kate and I, and internally on that, and we will keep you updated.
That sounds great. No, it's just really encouraging listening to Joe and George. You know, I'm pretty excited to see what those positions look like on the Eastern Plains, and we've got plenty of issues on this side too. But it's great getting those updates from Joe and George, and excited for the time when the logistics align for the Eastern Plains deputies.
Right. We'll count you in on the interview panel.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Nick. Fellas. Elena, would you share with us?
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully I can do this without kids screaming. They're both kind of taking turns over here. Well, I have a lot to learn, so it was really informative this meeting, just trying to figure it all out. So the weather is great here. I can't complain. We don't have any wind, which everyone's like, where is it? Where is it? It's got to be here somewhere. Just lambing, and that's been going well, especially with the nice weather. Makes it pretty easy. So yeah, just talking around with some other sheep farmers, and I think the wolf issue is definitely like high on people's concern, especially with sheep, because everything eats sheep. They're like popcorn for anything. We have everything: mountain lions and bears, and I think that, you know, there was a lot of concern because there already are wolves, and I think there's just that question of like, will it put people out of business? Will they even be able to be up there when they already have issues with predation? You know, pretty big problems. And then I was talking to one guy and he was telling me about how, you know, he's had it really a hard time working with the DOW when there is predation issues. So like, I love that there's maybe some programs to help reimburse for losses, but I will share the same experience that, you know, it's hard to get, you know, like they'll come out and they'll be like, well, we don't really know what killed your sheep, so it could have been, you know, so it's kind of hard to prove what happened and who did what, and to get that money back. And, you know, especially if you purchased the animal years ago, then you have to go back on those old receipts, and then how do you say what the value is? So I think there's definitely some things to be addressed there. And talking with the other ranchers made me realize that it's not just me, you know, kind of with that being a little bit complicated already with other, you know, with the programs that already are there. And I think that, you know, they shared even with because I know there's been a lot of issues with the ranges and trying to push sheep off the ranges just because of the bighorn sheep issues, worrying about, you know, our domestic sheep spreading diseases to the bighorn sheep. I think there's a lot of questions. Even a lot of those studies weren't that well done. So I think it's a shame because it is pushing a lot of people off those ranges, you know, and these are like old farms, you know, traditions that go back like before Colorado was a state. Some of these farmers have been bringing sheep up to the mountains, like, you know, back since the Spaniards were here. And so it's just kind of challenging when, you know, they're being pushed off that range with maybe question marks on how the bighorn sheep are even getting, you know, the diseases and if they are coming from, and then issues with working with the DOW on like trying to get, like I was talking to one guy and he was telling me that he saw some bighorn sheep in his bunch, and he tried to call the DOW, but they didn't show up for 2 days later. And he was like, well, you know, I don't know what to say. That's kind of like, I don't know what to do about the fact that, you know, there was this close contact between the wild sheep and the domesticated sheep. So yeah. Also, you know, the wool business has kind of collapsed here in Colorado. You know, even like the big wholesalers, or a lot of them at least, are out of business. So a lot of people are taking their wool like all the way down to New Mexico. I've heard people going down all the way to Roswell, and just really having like, you know, a backlog of wool. And I think that's why people are moving towards those hair sheep. So just because, you know, if you're sitting on your wool for 3 or 4 years, then it's kind of a challenge. I'm so excited that the water issue here, I mean, we're really excited that we have some snow and we're excited for that. But I think there's always just like a struggle on, some of the old water rights have really been damaged historically and continue to be damaged. And so I think there's definitely a lot of fights to try to protect some of these older water rights and these more like traditional systems. And I think that, just based on the last update on the basin, a lot of the work the sub-districts have been doing is great, but we haven't actually been able to really bring our aquifer back up again in a really good, sustainable, accountable way. So I think that's going to be a lot of questions looking forward into the water plan and how they're going to look at that and how we are going to get our, our system more sustainable. So yeah, I was just with the Young Farmers Coalition in DC with Roberto. He was there too, talking about the Farm Bill, which I think has some really good stuff. And I really love that you all talked about that. I will just share that some of those these USDA programs are so hard, like they're really challenging for farmers to get. Oh, here we go. Like there's the value added grant, for example. I have a friend who is a grant writer and she has looked at the grant and told me, don't apply for this. Like it's way too complicated. And I think that's a shame because that's money sitting there that could really help farmers. So yeah, so other than that, everything's looking really good. I mean, and the sheep look good. And I think everyone told me they're having slow lambing. So I don't know what's going on with that, but looks like it's going to be a good water year. So we're excited that we won't have to that maybe it'll be a little bit more enjoyable than it has been for the last few years. And I'm sorry to hear that not everyone's having that experience. So that's a bummer. Hopefully send some rain your direction. And yeah, so I don't know if there's any questions or thoughts.
Thank you, Elena. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, Simon.
Okay, I'll start off with welcoming the new board members and congrats, Jordan. Moving forward here in Southwest Colorado, we did get more water in the high country for us farming here in the low country. So it's going to be a different year than the last couple of years for sure. Our map's going to have some color to it this year. It's not going to be all gray with fallow ground, which is a good thing. We're looking at pretty much a full water allocation. So we're got every tractor we own in the field. And of course, once you start running them, you find out you're going to be fixing a lot. So we're going to be farming a little over 3,000 acres here in the next 60 days. We're going to be putting in about 1,000 acres of oat hay, a little over 1,000 acres of corn for the mill, and a little over close to 1,000 acres of new hay that we're going to try to establish and keep some that we had going last year. And that's on the farm end. We are going to be experimenting with some Kernza, and it's a wheat grain variety for cattle use, and that might help. It utilizes a little less water. We've been approached to get back into the sunflower business for sunflower oil, which uses a little bit more than our alfalfa, which is still brings in the best profitability for the dairy industry that we're tied into. If we have one bale or 20,000 bales, they like the hay that comes from this cool night, warm day, 5,000 foot elevation that we deal with here. On the cattle end, we're completely done with calving. It went well. Our numbers were very low on death loss, and they're probably a little over 80% complete on the 650 on the branding portion. And right now, all the cows are off the alfalfa and off the wheat, and they're on to the established triticale. And we did leave a few hundred acres back of the red winter wheat for the cattle operation. So the remainder of the farm now is starting to take form as far as being green out here in the desert. So we'll start some water tomorrow. We usually start on the 4th or 3rd of April, but we won't start a lot of the pivots up until next week, which is 2 weeks later, because we had good moisture in the soil, something we haven't had in the last few years. So it was a good winter, not only in the high country, but here on the farm itself. Bow and Arrow is still plugging along with existing customers, and we're getting new customers, it looks like every week. And they're getting ready for their SQF Level 2 audit next month, which this one is scheduled. Last year wasn't. So you have to be prepared no matter when, but at least now we know when to expect them to come in and do their audit on our facility. I was on a panel the 31st of March in Ignacio for the Southwest Water Conservation District. And the panel was talking about food and water. And I did not let you know, Bethany, that I was going to sit on that panel and put on the notes. So I will do my best later to let people know where and what I'm doing down here in this part of the country. And I think right now that's about it. We've put a good plan together here in the last couple of weeks on what water we're able to utilize. And once we get the oats harvested, then we're either going to go back with red winter wheat or go back into a few more acres of alfalfa. But we've got to be careful moving through the year on what next year might bring to us. So we're going to be looking at a few different types of crops here in Southwest Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Any, excuse me, questions for Simon? All right, thanks. Jeff, tell us what's going on in your world.
This has all been really interesting and really informative, hearing from everybody else around the state and what's going on, and sharing some of the same highs and the same lows. I can really empathize with Nick with the drought, and we suffered through that for a little while, and we've got a little bit of reprieve this year with a good snowpack, which is really nice. We're, like Elena has said, we're far from out of the woods with our water issues, and seeing these sub-districts come online and make advancements is really good. But we do have a really big fight ahead of us to get our aquifer back up to that sustainable level and restore senior water rights. So a lot of ground to cover there. But as far as other things going on, there's tractors in the area that have been planting grain for about 7 days now. And then potatoes will start to go into the ground here in about a week or two. So we'll be in the full swing of planting here in the next couple weeks. Something that I did last night is we had a community meeting about the potato seed shortage, not only here in Colorado, but nationwide as well. And being able to work as a community between commercial growers and seed producers to help it be easier for the seed producers to give us a steady supply of seed on the commercial end, and to be able to keep the disease levels down. We very much live in a small community here, and where disease spreads very quickly. So we had really good conversations about what a future seed law should look like, and hopefully develop something that works for the seed industry and the commercial industry here in the near future. So other than that, that's in a nutshell. And I guess a positive thing is the potato prices have been very good this year, just because of the shortage nationwide. We're very supply and demand based for the potato crop. And it looks like it's going to be similar in the upcoming year, just with the nationwide seeds shortage. So we won't be able to overproduce as we typically do.
All right, thanks, Jeff. David, do we have you?
We do. For some reason, my icon wouldn't let me unmute there when you asked for me last time, so apologize for that. Got her fixed up here though. Speaking of being in my pickup, I can't believe it's right, but I think it might be sitting in the sun. It shows 93 degrees. So I know it was supposed to get really warm on the very eastern side of Colorado. I thought we were supposed to be in the high 80s, but I guess that's probably not out of the question. But obviously broke a high temperature record, and also within this last week we broke a low temperature record. So very high swings in temperatures. It's making a little bit tough on baby calves and feedlot cattle, I should say, to those extreme conditions. We are, I guess the good news with the drought, we're way far from being over, is like Nick and the others have said there in the south, southeast, for the southern Colorado. We have dropped 2 categories though. We were in that extreme D4, D5, and now we're in a D2, D3, but still obviously in a drought. Wheat is starting to green up just a little bit. That did have the moisture. We are seeing some winter kill out there, whether that wheat was exposed, if it didn't get snow covered with all the blizzards we had. Sometimes the snow piled up on the sides, and southern sides of the fields are depending on which way the wind direction was, but there was some wheat exposed if it did germinate last fall. So we'll see a little bit of winter kill from that as well. Otherwise, if it was under snow or things like that, it got a little moisture, it's looking pretty good under there. Obviously the snow's all gone now. Let's see here. Sugar beets and potatoes are starting to go in the ground. This last week has really only been conducive for farming. But as farmers always do, they've been, once they were able to get in the field, a lot of them are going 24 hours a day, getting ground prepped and soil ready to go. And they also heard that there's a possibility of a rain this weekend. So people are trying to stay ahead of that, which they kind of backed off on that, but we sure hope we do get that. Probably see corn going in the ground next week too, if it doesn't rain. So all that's just a little bit early. But again, farmers kind of go when they can get in the fields. Cabin is probably 70% done in the area. There has been higher percentages of dystocia this year, most likely a combination of the drought and the cold winter, which it's good to see the high prices, because some of those cold cows going to town then are getting a little higher dollar return back on that. Still a lot of concern of the rising interest rates out here with the cost of production, yet we're just almost seeing double-digit interest rates again. That's going to be a big toll going forward. Interest rates have basically doubled since last year. So that's going to be a very big part of the farmers and ranchers' budgets this year. Labor is hard to find, as mentioned before. I can't believe it. It's just still hard to find help. It really is. Also, as I've mentioned in the past, got a lot of rail corn coming in to the area. And it's starting to affect a lot of the local truckers now as well, because a lot of times they're hauling corn with their loads, their trucks. So they're losing hauls because they aren't required to haul as much now with the rail cars coming in. So that's a major concern this way as well. Let's see here. Been attending some FFA fundraisers going on across Northeast Colorado. Springtime's good for that. It's good to see those young kids and future farmers and ranchers and all those young kids, as mentioned too. It's great to see the enthusiasm there and such. Let's see here. One more note. Oh yes, we're still very concerned with pasture conditions just because the drought has been so hard. Even though we've had some rains, there's not a whole lot left out there. So going forward here, as we're coming off corn stalks, going to grass, there's not a lot forage out there to eat, and haystacks are basically non-existent. So we do hope it keeps getting some showers or rains here to get this grass going. Otherwise, there could be many more cows going to town as we go forward. Also, thanks, Nick. I liked your flame ignition there on the on the rep for Eastern Colorado. So other than that, good. I've been able to watch you guys. I guess you can't watch me here, but I am out in the field today here, so doing various things. So looking forward to seeing you all in person next month, and I hope I can attend the Ag Commission initiation next week. So love to see you up there and meet the new members in person.
Great. Thanks, David. I will wrap it up and let you know along the Front Range. We feel very blessed that I can look out my window in the morning and see a really pretty green wheat field and then look across the road and see our brewing barley showing green as well. So that's a nice thing to see. Some farmers are not as fortunate as David was talking about. Some of them are having their wheat's not coming up. And it could be a possibility that some of them, we used to use the term when we planted sugar beets, they mudded the seed in. And they are contributing that could have been part of the reason as they put it in cold, wet dirt. So it's just varied, and they're ripping up their wheat fields and maybe either going to do hay or plant it to corn. So we'll wait to see, but are some discouraging fields around here. The drills are getting ready for planting corn. So that's another fire up around here. I did attend a listening session last week over Robert Sakata's place where I want to say her name right, Yardera Caraveo was there taking notes in a listening session. And what at the federal level and what the concerns that we were hearing over there was climate, labor issues, housing for employees, domestic and foreign competition, not concerns, but these are just the topics, education and consumer awareness of what farmers really do. So I thought those were really good listening components for her to hear, especially since she is sitting on the Ag Committee. So I thought that was really beneficial for her to receive all that knowledge. Of course, wrapping up, getting taxes ready to send and do all that fun stuff. I did do a radio interview yesterday with Lori Boyer with the KSIR. And I guess what I would tell the new people is when you get ready to do those, if you do those, definitely contact Bethany and Olga, and they'll help give you information and help you walk through what to expect if you haven't done those. And she, when she specifically asked me to do the interview, she wanted to know what the commission was doing. So when I gave the interview, I was representing as a member of the commission. Not the Pepler Farm conversation did not come up. It did come up, but so you can wear dual hats sometimes. But just so you know, Bethany and Olga are very good resources for you. It's nice to see a sunny day. I just looked when David said it was 93 on my phone. It says it's 82 here. So I'm drizzling, watering trees around here right now with just a little bit of drizzling of water. I am going to Iowa on Friday, so I'll be curious to see what agriculture looks like out there. It always amazes me when I think we have good cornfields, theirs are even better looking. So it's one of those things. Yeah, that kind of wraps up my report. Commissioner, do you have anything you want to add for today before I adjourn today's meeting?
Nothing on my end, Colleen, that hasn't already been covered. Just want to say thank you all again for being a part of this commission.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to seeing many of you next week. And if not, we will see you in May at Broomfield, hopefully. So with that, I am going to, as chairperson, adjourn the meeting for today. Have a great day, rest of your day. Bye-bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.